History: Hightower, Scudder's Inn, and issues of jurisdiction. In the early 1800s, the junction that is now the intersection of the Federal Road and 369 was the site of Scudder's Inn, an early establishment along the road. Jacob Scudder was an American citizen, a veteran of the War of 1812, who kept a hotel among the Cherokees from 1817 until 1831. Unlike many owners of stands and stores, Scudder was not a Cherokee and never accepted Cherokee laws. At least once he refused to pay a tax the Cherokees expected him to pay, and they responded by fining him and seizing some of his property. Issues of jurisdiction were crucial just a few miles west along the road on past Scudder's Inn, where Cherokees Thomas and Joshua Buffington owned 2 stands. An incident of one of the Buffingtons shows the conflicts over jurisdiction that took place along the road. In 1808, a U.S. citizen named Charles Wheeler was deeply in debt to a man named James Olive and his partner, William Strother. Wheeler decided to escape from the debt by taking off into Cherokee territory along the Federal Road, taking with him 11 slaves, 6 horses, and some money in his saddlebags. His creditors, Olive and Strother, tracked him down and demanded that he return the money, horses, and slaves, and Wheeler did so. But when Olive and Strother headed back east toward Hall County, the Buffingtons stopped them and challenged their right to take property away from Wheeler. James Olive told the Buffingtons, "I was authorized by the laws of the United States." But one of the Buffingtons rejected the claim and cursed both Olive and American law. Along with Lewis Blackburn and George Harlan, 2 other Cherokees who owned stands along the road, they seized control of the money, horses, and slaves. James Olive said they also took his gun and threatened his life. Strother intervened to say he would ride back to Georgia Territory to find more evidence to show their claim to the slaves, horses, and money, but the Buffingtons told them that in any case they needed a passport to be traveling in Cherokee Territory. Charles Wheeler continued to claim ownership of the 7 slaves, and he started renting them to various members of the Cherokee Nation. The whole issue continued for years when Olive and Strother sued the Cherokees for over $2,000 to cover their losses. The intersection at Hightower was important for other reasons. It was one of several intersections along the Federal Road, which by the early 1830s crossed about 15 roads in the state of Georgia. The U.S. military first used the intersection at Hightower in 1830 and 1831 when it built a small camp, named Camp Gilmer, to protect the interests of gold miners. And the intersection was a site for conflicts over gold mining territory. Near Scudder's Inn in 1833, about 30 Cherokees fought a similar number of U.S. citizens in a serious, but ultimately not deadly, dispute over access to gold mining land. The inn was also the location for some of the early elections in 1832 at the formation of Forsyth County. Just a few years later, Hightower became the site of Fort Campbell, one of the removal forts the U.S. government built to round up Cherokees prior to sending them west along the Trail of Tears in 1838. About 500 Cherokees lived in the vicinity of the fort in the late 1830s. Of those, U.S. troops forced more than 200 to spend time in Fort Campbell before moving them along the Federal Road to Ross's Landing in Chattanooga. Fort Campbell was located just north of the Federal Road, at the spot where it intersects today with Highway 369. The area around Hightower witnessed at least one more important moment in history. James Vann was murdered near Frogtown Ford, apparently at Thomas Buffington's tavern. Reaching Vann's Tavern Park, also the site of Vann's Ferry, which was also called Wynn's Ferry and Williams Ferry, is a reminder that the reach of the Vann family was considerable along the Federal Road. The Vann family, residing to the west near Spring Place, had wide-ranging economic interests in Cherokee territory. Looking across the Chattahoochee, knowing that this was a location for ferries 200 years ago, is also a reminder of the difficulties of travel along the Federal Road, which crossed about 80 bodies of water, some large, and most of them far smaller than the Chattahoochee.